Hey VC, how's it going? I hope you're all well, hope you've all had a good festive period. I'm sure you've all ate and drank too much, I know I have. Anyway, I thought I'd show you my favourite 10 releases of 2017. So first up, and probably my favourite album of the year, is Peter Perry, How the West Was Won. For those of you that don't know, Peter Perry was in a band called The Only Ones in the late 70s, early 80s. They were a post-punk band, put out 3 great albums. Their big tune was Another Girl, Another Planet, which you may well know. Since then, and prior to this, he's only put out 1 album, which is in the mid-90s, under the name of Peter Perry and the Ones. It's well documented, but he's had all sorts of issues with drugs, whether it be taking drugs or dealing them. So yeah, all a bit moody. But the good thing is, this album's come out now. He's made it with his 2 sons. And it is just a lovely, lovely record. It's almost a bit bittersweet actually, because of what's happened, and we know that he hasn't been making music for the majority of his life, to be perfectly honest. The fact that it's so good, you do really feel, well, it gives you an insight into what should have been, really. We all talk about these artists that die young, you know, unfulfilled potential, the likes of Jim Morrison, Amy Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix, whoever, you know. But this is almost even sadder, because, you know, it really is an unfulfilled life, musically anyway. You know, this really does show us what, you know, what he should have been doing and what we should have been hearing. But that said, we should just be grateful for this record. Basically, it's a lovely record, 10 tracks. The songs just sound effortless. They just feel like they've just appeared. I'm pretty sure that they've been well crafted, and he's worked on them for years, but they don't sound that way. They sound immediate. Just excellent songwriting, very witty lyrics, catchy choruses, everything that you want from a record. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Right, Thundercap Drunk. Now, when this came out, I think probably April, May time, it got a little bit of a stick actually, very much mixed reviews. It was, compared to his previous records, it was well, compared unfavourably basically. This is probably one of the albums that I've listened to most this year. Not the vinyl, if I'm totally honest. I don't like this. This is it's been put out as 4 10-inches. So, you know, to listen to the album in its entirety, you've got to turn the record over 8 times. So I've streamed it a lot this year, but you know, it's jazzy, it's funky, it's quirky songwriting, everything that I like, ticks all the boxes for me. So yeah, worth checking out. And actually, it's got some lovely guest appearances on here. Probably my song of the summer was "Show You the Way," which features both Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins. Right, okay. This is a reissue that came out first part of the year. Let's Have a Party by Geraldo Pino. This is an Afro funk record. Basically, I think probably back in January, Sands of the University, the soul jazz shop down in London, put out 2 45s, and across those 2 45s were 4 tracks taken from this album. And I picked them up when they came out, and they just sounded wonderful. The album came out a few months later. This is on PMG, who've put out a lot of Afro funk, Afro beat stuff over the last few years. And it's just a Saturday night record from start to finish. It's as funky as, so if you like African music or you like soul funk, this is for you. Right, okay, now this is my most recent pickup, another album that I've been streaming over the last couple of months. I've just picked up the vinyl this week. This is Ken Booth, Inner the Yard. Now, Ken Booth made all those lovely reggae albums in the late 60s, early 70s. Obviously, his big #1 single in the UK was Everything I Own. He's still got that wonderful voice. The phrasing and the tone is just Ken Booth. That hasn't changed, but his voice has lowered, which obviously does tend to happen as singers get older. But this record is, I suppose, comparable to the old MTV Unplugged sessions that we used to see in the 90s. This has, I think, been recorded for French TV, and it's been recorded outside with a stripped down acoustic band, and he's just basically him revisiting some of his great tunes, and it's just lovely from start to finish. 10 tracks. If anything, it's not long enough, but yeah, lovely. Okay, Gillian Welsh, The Harrow and the Harvest. Now, this album originally came out in 2011. It was a CD-only release. A lot's been said about this. Basically, what happened was, well, when it came out, it was Grammy nominated. It's the songs, the vocal, as you'd expect, are excellent from start to finish. But the interesting story behind this is I think probably about 5 years ago now. The album prior to this, which was Soul Journey, was due to be put out on vinyl. That was going to be the first of her albums to be put out on vinyl. She actually pulled the release. On hearing the pressing, she wasn't happy with it, and totally pulled the release. She then went away. Her and her husband Dave Rawlings, who she works with, went away, learnt about the record pressing process, and basically overseen the mastering of this to vinyl. And this is the best sounding record you will hear this year. It's a lovely record, and is definitely an album that you need to hear on vinyl. So yeah, The Harrow and the Harvest, Gillian Welsh. Right, this is perhaps a bit predictable if you've seen any of my videos previously, but A Kind of Revolution, Paul Weller. 2017 will look back as being one of Paul Weller's great years, which is saying something when you consider what he's achieved in the past. Early in the year, he put out his first soundtrack to the film Jawbone, which on vinyl, the first side was a 20-minute ambient piece. And he's finished the year by putting out a 12-inch called Mother Ethiopia, which is in essence an Afrobeat tune. So you can see that he'll try anything at the moment, and everything's coming good as well. The standard of stuff that's come out this year has been excellent. This record is no different. Again, I think basically in the mid 2000s, his sound started getting a bit stale, more of the same, and he started mixing it up with the album 22 Dreams. This is his 5th album since then, and each one has just got better. I know that Robert Wyatt named one of the tracks off this album The Cranes Have Come Back, is it? Let's check that. The Cranes Are Back, sorry, yeah. I know that he named that as being his favourite tune of the year, so high praise indeed. And I say the whole album is of a similar calibre, so definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. Right, okay. The Big Moon, this was a debut album that came out early part of the year, April, May time again. This was Mercury Prize nominated. And that's actually how I heard about it, was through the Mercury Prize nominations. It's a debut album, and it's a sort of album that could only be made by, well, I don't know much about the band, but I'm assuming they're teenagers. It is totally fresh, totally unself-conscious. The songs are very simple but very immediate. Really does look back to that sort of mid-90s Britpop sound. If that was done by a more well-established artist, I think it would sound like Old Hat, but the fact that I think the members of the band probably weren't even born at that point, it does give it a different slant. It certainly gives it a freshness. Yeah, this was a great find for me this year, and an album that I've played lots. Great pop songs. If you like the likes of Elastica or Echo Belly, definitely one for you. Right, I don't normally do sort of remix albums, but this is Funkadelic. The album's called Reworked by Detroiters, and as the title suggests, it is a remix album of Funkadelic's tunes done by other Detroit artists. The vinyl edition is lovely. I mean, certainly from the artwork, which looks back to the original Funkadelic stuff. It's split over 3 records, so 6-sided vinyl. As I say, to be perfect, the best versions don't stray too far from the original. I know that the Dirt Bombs are on here, and they've actually re-recorded a tune, but apart from that, it is pretty much remixes. But very tastefully done, and something that I'd recommend to any Funkadelic fans. Right, okay. Mavis Staples, If All I Was Black. Now this came out a couple of months ago. Now I suppose, full disclosure here, Mavis Staples is my favourite female vocalist. So you're getting a lot of glare on that. Yeah, over the last 5 or 6 years she's made 3 albums with Jeff Tweedy from Wilco. And I think that this little run of albums is certainly one of the high points of her career. Previously, she's worked with the likes of Ry Cooder and Prince, but I think the mistake that those artists made was they tried to fit her vocals around their sound, whereas what Jeff Tweedy has done so well is he set things up with a similar sound to what made those great Staples Singers records so good. You know, you've got Mavis's vocal at the forefront with a very simple musical accompaniment, obviously in that case from Pop Staples guitar, and he's kept a very minimalist backing with her vocal right out there. The songs, 10 originals, all written by Tweedy, with the exception of 2 songs which were co-written with Mavis, and it really works. I mean, you think about the stuff that Johnny Cash did with Rick Rubin. Everybody talks about that at the end of his career. Now Mavis is approaching 80 now. I mean, I hope there's a lot more music to come, but I do think in years to come, this little run of albums will be seen as a real high point for her. Okay, and finally, Laurel Kane, Yesterday's Gone. Now, I wasn't going to include this, but if I'm totally honest, middle of the year, this was the album that I listened to most. I'm not a massive UK hip-hop fan, but this has got a real charm to it. It's basically an album about family. You can see from the sleeve there, it basically features his family members. His family members actually appear on the album. I think the highlight of it is his mum actually reading a poem about her son, which, if I'm totally honest, totally choked me up when I first heard it. I remember that at the time I was a relatively new dad, so perhaps that had something to do with it. But yeah, I think it's a lovely album. It's a very sweet, innocent album, which, you know, isn't something I'd necessarily normally associate with a hip hop artist. I like his delivery as well. It's a very laid back, gentle delivery, and I think it really works. So worth checking out. Anyway, that's my 10. Cheers.